Good morning, good people. It is Wednesday, September the 15th, 2021. This is Wake Up with Ray G, joined as always by my partner in crime and co-host, producer of the show, Jordan Richards, at your boy Jay Rich. On Twitter, we are hosted, presented, powered by Bets TV. Make sure you're tapped in. Dude, there's so many different shows. Like every other day, we're getting notifications that new talented content creators are putting out content and information for you to take advantage of, whether that's to win daily fantasy leagues or to win, DFS lineups, bets, all types of stuff, man. Like the amount of content and the wealth of knowledge that are coming out over here on Bets TV and FTN Fantasy is just, it's insane, man. It's insane. And when I see people who follow the dope content creators, follow the people who put in work, not only do they dominate their fantasy leagues, but they're winning money, and they're winning a lot of money. And that's what we want to do. We've got to get on track this week. We didn't have a bad week last week, Jay, but I think there are definitely some matchups to exploit this week. We got a little bit of information from week one, but before we get into the show, how are you this morning, my friend?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here, excited, another show. And like you said, we have some data now we can point to, look at tendencies amongst these NFL teams to start picking better lines. Didn't have a bad week last week, but think we can do better. And especially looking towards the futures market, I think there's going to be some more things we can exploit, getting at lines early and getting these bets in early. We're going to find some more value like we talked about with Elliott on our show. I believe it was a week and a half ago.
Yeah, man, for sure. And we've got a game tomorrow that we'll tap into here in a little bit. But we've got some quick news pieces. And good morning, y'all, man. Paul, good morning. Rico, Ty, Jorgen, all the way from Germany. My dog joining us from his lunch break. I figured out the time zones. It's his lunch break. It's not his nighttime. It's not bedtime. It's not morning. It's his lunch break. Demetrius, what's up, man? Good morning. He's asking a quick fantasy question. Have Kyler in Superflex PPR Dynasty. What do I do with Kirk? Hold him, trade him. Hold him. I mean, unless you can get a lot for him. I mean, I just don't know what you can trade Christian Kirk for right now. Like, what can you trade Christian Kirk for right now? Even after a blowout game, I don't think a lot of people really are buying in.
I mean, in my leagues, I'm not getting jack for Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
But if you can, maybe you upsell him to somebody. I'm trying to think of players who had bad week ones. Ryan McDowell in the chat. What's up? Ryan would probably be a good person to ask about this too. But I think for me, the problem is that I don't know. I'm trying to think of who had a bad week and who you can maybe flip Christian Kirk for in the process. And no one's really coming to mind right now. A guy like Tyler Boyd is kind of a guy I'm looking at maybe if you want to make that swap. Consistency, volume versus the probably boomer bust nature of Christian Kirk is a way I may be leaning, because I do think the Boyd does have wide receiver 2 upside this season.
Somebody said we've got feedback on the mic. My phone is away from the mic. Let's get all this shit out the way early. Let's clear it up. Well, is your phone too close to the mic? Move your phone. I'm not gonna bang the table today. I promise. Like I went to bed last night and I said that I will not pound the table at all. I won't bang the table at all. So my AirPods are in. I hope the sound is better. I'll keep my hands up like this the entire show. I will not touch the table. I hope we sound better. But yeah, Christian Kirk. Okay, Vaughn says we're good. But, we got Ryan McDowell. What's up, R-Mac? DLF's very own Ryan McDowell. I see you got the Destination Devi shirt on. Make sure you tap into Destination Devi. Proud member of the DLF family of podcasts, so you can listen to all the college stuff on DLF or Destination Devi. But, I don't know what you can get for Kirk, man. I see Jordan back is saying flip Kirk for Rondell. If you could, I would do that. If you could. Even though he only played 29% of the snaps. Rondell Moore, that is. William from Cincinnati, hello. Joey, first time catching the show live. All right, so what are we doing, man? We got some news, man. What's up?
Yeah, so we got a little bit of news, and nothing major, but a few things we definitely want to touch on. Josh Gordon reinstated. I wrote in the doc for the 100th time because I don't know what number it is now. I can't even keep track anymore. But he's been reinstated. I still, honestly, man, the funniest thing about Josh Gordon, every time I ask this question, is he or is he not still on his rookie contract? Because I don't know. See, you're thinking about it, right? I don't know. This is a question that I've been asking since he's been on the page. I know. Look, can you please look it up for me? Well, I'll get the rest of the news.
Because he wasn't drafted, right? Like, he didn't get drafted.
No. remember, he keeps being traded. He got traded to New England, and he got traded from the Browns. Like, I'm pretty sure he is still on his rookie contract, because when he was in New England, he was still on his rookie contract. Yes, bro. He keeps getting suspended, so he doesn't earn eligibility on his contract because he's suspended. I am like 90% sure that he is still on his rookie deal. He has never signed an extension, a new contract. He's just been suspended over and over and over and over, not earning eligibility on that contract. So either way, I think he still is, or if not, he's on a 1-year deal with the Seahawks. I don't even know if he's still on the Seahawks, but I believe he's still technically on the Seahawks.
This is interesting. Okay, so his entry-level deal was 4 years, 5.3, 2012 to 2017.
In what year?
2012 to 2017. And then he got a 1-year deal from 2018. It was just 2018, just a 1-year contract in 2018. Okay. $790,000. And then New England gave him a contract, a 1-year deal, $2 million. So he's, I mean, yeah.
He's got a couple deals.
So he's been in the league almost 10 years now, and he's only got 6 years worth of contracts. 4 years in his entry deal, and then 2 1-year. Point is, we're spending too much time on Josh Gordon. We're spending. What do you do with Josh Gordon? Are you excited?
I can't do this again. I've done it before. I've done it actually multiple times. I just can't do it. If you want to pick him up on waivers for $1, for $0 in a dynasty league, sure. Like, I guess I can get on board. You know, there's probably a tight end on your bench you don't need, whatever. But do not pick him up in a redraft league. You'll be wasting a roster spot. It's not worth it.
Hey, Matt Bruning.
I'm assuming you feel the same way.
Matt, Matt, I got to ask Matt Bruning real quick. Matt, is Will Levis going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft?
Oh, no.
The Campus to Canton guys, I feel like they've got this feud with me over Will Levis. And I just keep here's my thing, man. This is what I'm going to say. Remember last year, and I'm just using Mac Jones, for example, and you watch him play, and you're just like, it's a supply and demand league. When we look at the NFL right now, we can rattle off the teams that need quarterback help. Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Houston. What other teams are probably in the market for? That's 3 off the top of my head right now. Did I say Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh is going to need to replace Ben Roethlisberger. The New York Giants are going to be in the market for a quarterback.
Yep.
Who else? And this is just
the Vikings could be in the market too.
The Minnesota Vikings
and the Lions could be in the Vikings.
The Lions, maybe the Saints. So in this world where, like, we see this every year. I'm old enough to remember that E.J. Manuel was a first-round pick out of Florida State. I remember Christian Ponder being a top 15 pick out of Florida State. Probably need to stay away from Florida State quarterbacks. Blaine Gabbert out of Missouri. Jake Locker. We see because you can't win without a quarterback. And regardless of what you think about the class, regardless of what you think, there's no Trevor Lawrence, there's no Justin Fields, there's no Zach Wilson. That's not going to stop NFL teams from saying, we got to take a shot to find our guy. We cannot roll into 2022 with Tyrod Taylor as our starter. We cannot roll into a season where Big Ben is our starter and we have a good team. But if Ben Roethlisberger, think about this for a second. Pittsburgh, I'm not saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers are this Super Bowl powerhouse in waiting, right? But they're a team that could push for the playoffs. And when you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. It's a war of attrition. Who's healthy left standing at the end of the season? If Ben Roethlisberger goes down, they're done. There's no hope. Like, the season is over. Yeah. So you can't continue to go into seasons with just one old-ass quarterback or one inefficient quarterback. Now, Denver Broncos, another team that will probably be looking for a quarterback in the future. Now, I will say there are some NFL quarterbacks like a Jimmy Garoppolo who I do think will start again, right? So next season, I think we can all fully expect Trey Lance to be the full-time starting quarterback of the 49ers. Now, whether San Francisco trades Jimmy Garoppolo or I think that'd be their best move. They trade him for, a 5th-round pick, something like that. Something wild like that. These quarterbacks are going to go earlier than we expected. And for everything that players like Malik Willis, Carson Strong, Will Levis, for everything that they're not, I would say that if we're just looking at body type, the traits that NFL teams covet at the position, Will Levis has more tools than Mac Jones. He may not have it here, right? Because we could see that Mac is just very good with like understanding coverages and where to go.
Yeah.
And he makes up for a lot of his athleticism and arm talent inefficiencies with his brain. But Levis has more arm. Willis is more mobile, probably a better arm as well. I know it's inferior competition, but these teams are going to draft these dudes, man. Like in this NFL today, we see that they have no problem moving on after 2 years, after 3 years. Like, see you, Trubisky, Josh Rosen, you weren't it after one season, we're done. Like, that's just what it is. So when you're looking at, oh, I don't think he's the best, and I think there's a big difference, man. And I think a lot of times this is where the fantasy space gets muddled with actual wins and losses because, yes, Malik Willis or Will Levis may not be the best fantasy, or Carson Strong may not be the best fantasy asset, may not be the best Devy or C2C asset. But when the NFL evaluators and the GMs are sitting back saying, I need someone to operate this offense, those are the guys that are going to get picked, and they're going to get picked high. And that's just the reality of it. And we see this story repeat itself year after year. If Kyle freaking Trask, and I know it was the last pick in the second round, if Kyle Trask was a second round pick, Davis Mills and Kellen Mond were high third round picks, you cannot tell me that Malik Willis or Will Levis are not going to go high in the NFL draft. At some point, y'all going to feel me. Y'all are going to listen and understand, and I'm not saying they have first-round grades, and I think somebody from the Draft Network said it as well. Fantastic draft content that they have. Me and Paige, very cool. Love her. Fantastic CEO. But I've got 5 or 6 quarterbacks in round one, and I don't have first-round grades on 4 of them. You know what I mean? It's just a supply and demand world. Carolina Panthers, another one with the quarterback. It's about the tools, man. Can a GM and a head coach take those tools and develop it, right? You can't take Mac Jones and make him throw further, but what you can do is tailor an offense where he can get the ball out quickly and play to his strengths. So I digress. I don't know how the hell we got there from Josh Gordon, but no, I would not pick up Josh Gordon. But a question I do want to ask you, did you drop the bag on Elijah Mitchell for waivers today?
I did in a few leagues, yes. I did as much as I could because I already spent a lot of money on Tyson Williams. So I did drop, I believe, let me just out myself to my whole league on Twitter, I think I was $35 of my $45 I had available because I did put in a bid on Juwan Johnson as well at tight end.
Oh, you're feeling Juwan Johnson?
I am, yeah. I think he's going to be a viable option. You know, we've seen Troutman kind of lose that job a little bit in camp, and he even dropped a pass in that game. He was still involved. Of course, it was a blowout, but I do think that Juwan Johnson and Jameis Winston have some chemistry, and there's some trust there, and you saw that especially in the end zone, which is what I want out of my flyer tight end, is a touchdown opportunity each and every week. And if he's, 50% every week, and he can score 8 touchdowns this season, it's probably worth picking up.
Well, wasn't there some news out of the Saints organization with the COVID outbreak?
Yes, so 8 staff members of the Saints tested positive for COVID, and this was reported yesterday. Again, they play in Carolina Saturday, but apparently they're not worried. They're saying they're going to handle it. Sean Payton's like, it's whatever. All the coaches are vaccinated anyways, so they don't have to go through these long protocols. There's not going to be these long delays, these long periods of time away from the team. So it's kind of just like a non-story. It was reported, of course, by the media, but as far as they're concerned, there's no issues as far as the players especially make it to the game, anyone out. It'll still be Alvin Kamara, Jameis Winston. Michael Thomas will still be out because he's on IR, but everyone should be there. The only 2 notable absences will be Marshawn Lattimore, expected not to play week to week. He has a hand injury, and he's supposed to get surgery, so he'll be week to week on that. And then Marcus Davenport, of course, stud defensive lineman, but the man is never, ever healthy. And so he's hurt right now. Week 1 had a great performance, but he's hurt again, and they don't know exactly when he's going to be back, but he's not expected to play in week 2.
All right, so the Saints get who they have this week. I
Carolina.
They got Carolina.
Carolina, yeah. I actually put in a bet on them already.
For the Saints to cover a spread.
Yeah, it was. I think I got it at 2.5, and it's moved to 3.5 now.
Nice, man.
But I put that in like Sunday morning, I think, or
know.
Sunday night.
I don't know how to value Carolina right now because the defense looked outstanding versus the Jets, but it's versus the Jets, right? And then how much?
Yeah.
I think we'll get a lot more clarity after like week 3. We'll really be able to see which teams are sort of pretenders or contenders. Week 1, it's early. These dudes haven't played in forever. But everything that I've heard, and we kind of talked about this, Matt Rule going 8 defensive players in that draft a year ago is looking like it's paying off because they got the big tackle, Derek Brown out of Auburn.
Derek Brown and Auburn,
J.C. Horn, their first-round pick this year. Jeremy Chin, it looks like he's developing into one of the best young safeties in the NFL, just an absolute stud back there. So it's going to be interesting to see how Carolina plays. And that team, just when you have Christian McCaffrey on the field, it just makes a world of difference. He is Captain America. That dude is Captain America of the NFL. He's so good, man. So freaking good. The Denver Nuggets, a little bit of NBA news. Denver Nuggets forward Aaron Gordon, 4-year, $92 million. As I'm watching these NBA contracts roll in, I just want to see what these B-level players in the NBA are making compared to like the A-list elite guys in the NFL. Like when I see 4 years, 92, that's like Marshawn Lattimore money, right? Which is like the highest paid.
That's pretty much identical what Marshawn got, was about $92 million. And it was only $62 million guaranteed, where Gordon's is fully guaranteed.
So, and Aaron Gordon is probably
second highest paid player on the team, I believe.
And in the NBA, he's
third highest paid player on the team. On his own team.
Like, he's not even top 50 NBA player, is he?
No, I wouldn't say so, no.
No, not even top 50. No. And Marshawn Lattimore is at worst, top 8 corner in the NFL. At worst, top 10. He's a top 10 cornerback.
And he was in the top 100, right?
And he was in the
top 100. I don't know where
100.
he was at in the top 100. He's in the top 100 for sure.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But there is a quick piece of, I think, important news that we need to talk about once we get into the morning run concerning the world of football, but not American football. Well, I mean, it is. I'll just call it soccer. I don't know what I'm saying. Jump into the morning run.
Wake up! This is the morning run.
Run, Forrest, run!
All right, Jay, I'm going to let you take this one because the people will know I have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about. But this is sort of an important topic because it's been in the news for quite some time. So why don't you go ahead and get into this news?
So basically, yesterday it was reported that the U.S. Soccer Federation put together a new CBA, and it was apparently going to be a joint CBA for the men's and women's soccer teams. Now, for people who aren't following, the women's soccer team has been heavily critical of the U.S. of the U.S. management of FIFA because of pay equity issues, right? The men's team gets paid a lot more than the women's team. The women's team is much more successful. They're more popular. They bring in more revenue according to them. Part of the problem, though, is obviously FIFA doesn't feel like women deserve as much money. And that's been the case across sports for a very, very long time. But the women's team is trying to change that. You know, they realize that they are a massive draw, especially in America, and they do bring in a lot of money. And so this proposal is really just more, it's sort of a non-story because it's not like it's been accepted by the women yet. It's not like it's been accepted by all of the representatives, but it has been brought to the table in a joint fashion in which the men and women will receive a revenue split. But the biggest hiccup with this whole situation is that currently FIFA is paying the men's teams $440 million. Not the U.S. men's team, but this is all of the men's teams across all of FIFA for the World Cup. Is $440 million, where the Women's World Cup only is given $60 million of revenue. So that equity gap already that's the major hiccup in why the men get paid so much more than the women. And I didn't even know this until I read this full story, that the men get paid that much more from FIFA. So it's not just an internal U.S. issue. It's also a FIFA issue. But part of the problem and part of the reason why the women are suing and they're making a bigger fuss about this is because it's not like their own team, their own representatives at the U.S. Soccer Federation are going to bat for them to get more money also. They're just sitting on the sidelines and watching this take place, and they're basically saying enough is enough. And so while this gesture itself is virtually meaningless, I'm not trying to say that they're doing the right thing even, because until the women feel like they are actually getting a fair bargain and a fair deal, it's a non-story. It's simply a gesture. And you see this a lot of times from representatives from various organizations. It's an extension of, good faith, and to say, oh, we did it, we offered them a deal and they didn't accept it. It's really just a PR move. So until we know the terms of this true agreement, we're not going to know whether it's actually a fair deal. It's just been proposed as a joint agreement for the men and the women to get paid more equally than they are presently. The CBA is set to actually end for the women at the end of this year.
Here's something interesting, and we don't shy away from the tough topics. And I want to put this comment up. Rubio says, supply and demand. I've only watched one women's match in my life back in the World Cup Finals when U.S. played Japan. But as you were talking, I disagree with this because I actually right now, I can name more U.S. women's soccer players. I can see them. Like, I'm more familiar with who they are opposed to the men. Like, I literally this is how outdated I am. Is Freddie Adu still playing? That's like the only U.S. men's, like, exactly. Like, I can name far more United States women's soccer players it seems like they're more recognizable than the men's. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I'm not delivering that as fact, but I'm just saying, as the common layperson who doesn't really watch soccer until the World Cup, like, I'm a fair weather fan, I know more women's players than I do men's. Like, that is a more recognizable world for me than the men's. Am I wrong? Am I alone in that thinking, or is the commenter right? Rubio, who says he's only watched one women's match, where that's all I really want. Like, if I'm gonna watch one, I want to see the women play, and that's it.
Yeah, so for me, right, and obviously I live in Canada, so I know some of the Canadian players, but, the big three are Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, and Julie Ertz are kind of the three main ones that people know, right? And most people know Julie Ertz, unfortunately, because she's Zach Ertz's husband, and there has been a lot of people who are trying to change that narrative, and good for them for doing that, because she is more successful than Zach Ertz is. Yeah. They're both champions, but Julie Ertz has been champions multiple times. But when you talk about the difference between the U.S. men's team and the U.S. women's team, the U.S. men's team sucks. Like, they're terrible. But the women's team is going to gold medals almost every year. They're winning championships. And truthfully, from the reports that I have seen in the past, they are more recognizable, more noticeable, and they are on TV more so than the men. No one cares about the men. I haven't known a player on the men's team since Landon Donovan. He's been retired, I think, for over 5 years.
Yeah, Landon Donovan.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, people have heard of Landon Donovan. Outside of that, I can't even name a single player on the team. I know a decent amount of the women's teams, with those big three being at the forefront, especially Rapinoe, Morgan, and Ertz. They were also very big in the movement of trying to get the equal pay, right? They are the ones that were part of the lawsuit to FIFA, to the U.S. Soccer Federation, to try and get more money. But again, it just depends on kind of who you are, where you live, and what you pay attention to. But from what I've seen, they are more recognizable, especially, in New York City and in some of the bigger states. In smaller states, of course, you just may not get that exposure. But in some of the more recognizable places, these athletes are more well known than the men's team, at least in my opinion. Yeah,
and I think it's different, man. And Brad says, not a soccer dude. See, it's just interesting. And I'm Brad. I'm not a soccer dude either. But if I'm watching the women. You know what I mean? I think this is something that I don't want to do this topic a disservice by just glossing over it as it's no big deal. And I do think I would love to get an opinion of a woman sportscaster in this space to see what they think about it. Because right now you can take the best player off of the men's team and put him right in front of me, or we're in a crowd, and I wouldn't know who he is. If you put Julie Ertz, Megan Rapinoe, Morgan in front, I would know them. Like, I'd be like, oh my God, that's her. And it's interesting, man. I have a high school friend who played in the WNBA out of Las Vegas, Sequoia Holmes. Shout out to Sequoia, that's my girl. But man, the work that they put in, and just to hear the stories about what they get paid, how they live, it's crazy. And I get it, man. It's a tough topic because everybody is watching the NBA. A lot of people don't go to we've got the Dallas Wings here. I go to Dallas Wings games. They're fun. They're entertaining. They're fun games. But you look around, I mean, you can move around and sit wherever you want. You know what I mean? It's just it's a tough topic to get into, equity. But we've got to take a step. So as far as this CBA and this gesture, I hope there's some authenticity to it. Is there? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. Dalton says, y'all haven't heard of Christian. I have not.
I've heard of him, but I couldn't think of his name off the top of my head. He's supposed to be the next U.S. soccer phenom. I don't know a whole lot about him, though. I've heard the name, but it wasn't coming to me that quickly, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, I have no clue who it is. But what I do know, I know Chase Young. I know Antonio Gibson. I know football, American football. I do know that. But before we get into that, real quick, AP Top 10 came out after Ohio. And we did not slander Ohio State enough. but they took a bad L. And as I'm looking at the top 10 rankings, we've got Bama and Georgia 1-2, Oklahoma 3, Oregon 4, and Iowa 5. What's your prediction for the top 4? Because I think this is what's going to happen. I think Alabama and Georgia, if they meet up in the SEC title game, they're locks to get in the playoffs. I don't care who loses.
Yeah.
If Georgia beats Alabama, Alabama will be the 4th seed or maybe even the 3rd seed. If Bama beats Georgia, they'll be the 4th seed or the 3rd seed. Both of those teams, undefeated seasons, they're both getting into the college football playoff, period. At 3, you've got Oklahoma, who I think will win the Big 12. If Oklahoma wins the Big 12, just like they were in the college football playoff and lost to LSU, they'll get back in the college football playoffs. That's it. At this point, it's a race for the 4th spot. And right now, Oregon is sitting at 4. Oregon should win the Pac-12. So my question is, does an undefeated Oregon out of the Pac-12 get the nod over one of the Big Ten teams? Or Clemson. If Clemson runs the table, I think they've got Georgia Tech this weekend. Here's what's interesting. The Big Ten, the division with Ohio State, they've got Michigan State and Penn State, both of whom are 2-0 right now. I mean, Maryland's 2-0. Michigan's 2-0, for Christ's sake. So I don't know how much stock you put into that. But that's the more competitive side opposed to Illinois, Iowa, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Nebraska. I don't know if Ohio State finishes with 1 loss. And I know Bruning is in here. I could see them taking another L, whether that be in the Big Ten title or versus Michigan State or Penn State. Like, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they run the table. I think they've got serious issues on the defensive side of the ball. But my question is, who gets that 4th seed? Because I think at this point, barring any crazy, I mean, Georgia didn't even have their starting quarterback, and they hung, granted they didn't play anybody, but they hung a ton of points up with Carson Beck. Not Carson Beck, but 13 Stetson Bennett. Who gets that fourth playoff spot? Does an undefeated Pac-12 make it in?
So what I will say to you is I think you are right for the most part, but I don't think Oklahoma's a lock. I just don't. And I refuse to give them that level of respect over Oregon, who I already saw beat Ohio State. So in my opinion, Oregon is the front runner for the 3 spot, and it's the 4 spot that's up for grabs. But to answer your question more directly, if you think Oklahoma is the 3, you think they're locked into the 3, I personally think a Pac-12 team that beat Ohio State, I don't know if Oklahoma has anyone on their schedule that's worth a damn, but beating Ohio State and winning the Pac-12 is worth more than winning the Big 12, in my opinion. But to answer your question about the 4 spot, I am worried that a 1-loss Clemson team will be forced into the playoff because they're Clemson. And we've seen it before. We saw it last year with Ohio State. Ohio State got forced into the playoff when, yes, they deserved it. They definitely played well. They definitely showed out in those games. But they got forced into the playoff, and I don't think it's above the committee to force Clemson into the playoff. And if they have as easy of a schedule as we expect them to have, which they probably do,
it's easy.
And their only loss is to the number 2 team in the country. I think the committee can forgive that. The problem was that no one thought Georgia was the number 2 team in the country going into this. Yeah. But week 1, they proved it. And if they carry that the whole year, and the only loss they have is to Alabama, or even if they beat Alabama, so the Clemson's only loss was to the number 1 team in the country, they're going to forgive that if they run the table. Versus Ohio State, who lost to an Oregon, who's a 2-3 team in the country, and at the time was the 12th overall team in the country, right? And then Oklahoma, they may run the table, but I personally don't think they're necessarily gonna.
They still have some quality wins on there. They still have a chance for some quality wins versus Texas, TCU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. There's still some quality games on there, and I mean they're going to travel well. Oklahoma travels well, and they're going to get the ratings right. I can't foresee them taking a 1-loss ACC team that they haven't looked good. Even versus who did Clemson play last week? South Carolina State. They still didn't look good. But
they got time though. They got time to build up to it. And you got to remember, man. they got what? They got 8 weeks plus 10 weeks to really get on a roll, and I think they can do that. They have the time, right? And they have an easy schedule.
I know we say that, but it's already week 3 of the college football season. Like, think about it's already week 3. We're almost a quarter of the way done with the college football, which sucks, right? Bruning said if it comes down to Ohio State and Clemson, I think Ohio State gets in. They look better. I don't think Ohio State's getting in. I
don't think so either.
I think that dream is a wrap. That loss to Oregon, and if Oregon runs the table, which they should, Oregon should finish under. Now they did lose Justin Flo for the season. They did. Justin Flo's out for the season. Foot injuries, done for the year. But if Oregon runs the table, which they should, that pretty much, in my opinion, that wipes Ohio State out of the picture. I'm sorry. There's no way that you'd put Ohio State in over an undefeated team. If I were a Buckeyes fan, you're praying for a loss from Oklahoma. You're praying for a loss from Oregon. I don't see it. And then they still have to get through Iowa. Texas A&M is sitting there at 7. Cincinnati at 8. Penn State right behind them at 10. I don't know. I guess Oregon's biggest challenge is going to be UCLA. The Oregon-UCLA game is going to be a big one. And if UCLA beats Oregon, I think that will give those teams some credence. But it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this college football season shakes out. I see there's a lot of college football chatter in here. Does Clemson – Georgia or North Carolina. I don't know what he means, Stone. Does they beat
Georgia?
Play Virginia Tech or
probably. I don't think they play North Carolina.
I think they play North Carolina in the ACC title game if they make it there.
Yeah.
The ACC stinks, and DJU doesn't have the muster to support TV watch. Yeah, he doesn't. Like that's one of the things. I know a lot of listeners out here are probably too young to remember BCS. Do you remember the BCS, Jordan?
Of course.
I don't know.
Of course I remember the BCS system. It's my favorite system.
Style points mattered. Like, teams used to have to go out there and kick the you-know-what out of teams in order to make an impressive
for 2
win.
spots.
Yeah, I kind of liked it. I kind of missed the BCS a little bit. That was
rigged as hell, but it was awesome.
It was rigged. You talk about rigged. You talk about rigged elections, the BCS. All them voting machines were all kinds of rigged. You just sit back waiting for those numbers to come out, and you're like, what? I miss the BCS.
Make any sense ever.
I like intrigue and drama. But let's get into the Thursday. You want to get into the Thursday night game?
Yeah, let's beat the rush and get into the Thursday night game.
All right, let's do it.
Wake up! This is Beat the Rush.
Get out of the way, jackass!
All right, so tomorrow we have the Washington football team versus the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, Sterling Shepard, Joe Judge, Jason Garrett versus Chase Young, Taylor Heineke, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin. Listen, Washington, the money line, I mean, the price there, -169, not even, I wouldn't even put any money on that. Washington is favored by 3.5 points. You said you got them when it was 2.5, which is a hell of a lot better. They just got to win by a field goal. Short week, what are we doing with this game? Like, I think we all are here's my thing. We're saying Washington, but, I mean, Heineke he's an experienced backup. You know, he's got experience, but he's still a backup quarterback, still a young guy. I think the short week helps him out, that they don't have a ton of time to kind of game plan for him. You got to put together a game plan for him on a short week. The guys played on Sunday, then they have film on Monday. They didn't practice Monday, so they really just have practice Tuesday, a little bit of practice today, and then, I mean, it's the game tomorrow. What are your thoughts on this line, the spread, the over-under at 40.5? Where are you at with this Thursday night game?
As a bettor, I don't love it. I don't like this game at all, especially with a 40.5 point over-under. That 3.5 spread it's going to be a close one. You know, implied total of about 23, 22 to 18 or so, which is disgusting. I don't want any of that personally. And so it's just kind of like, what do I feel for this game? To your point about Taylor Heineke, limited tape on him as well. You know, not just do they have to game plan for a different quarterback now, but it's limited tape. The only big game they saw from him was the game against Tampa Bay, where he honestly, frankly, kind of diced them up a little bit. So I don't love this game from a kind of general betting perspective. If I was to place a bet, it actually would be on Washington to win. I think they're probably going to win because of that defense. I was looking at the over-unders for some of Daniel Jones' turnover numbers. They are not good. So bettors are expecting a lot of turnovers, which I think is in the favor of the Washington football team. They're going to have short fields. They do have great weapons. I think they win pretty easily. I know it's understandable why you don't want to take the juice on the -170, but you know, they are favored for a reason. And I do think, especially with how Saquon Barkley looked last week, I'm not sure I give the Giants much of a chance, and I would be willing to bet on the Washington football team. I think on the money line, the spread, I'm iffy on, but I am confident that they're going to win that game. I'd probably bet them down all the way to like -180 even.
Wow. Yeah, so I did, and I live in Texas, so the way I got to place my bets are a little different. But I've got Terry McLaurin. I've got four prop bets that I sort of liked in this game, and we'll get into some of them in a second. But real quick, I took Terry McLaurin over 5.5 receptions. I've got Daniel Jones over 231.5 yards because they're a team where even if they're getting blown out, they're not pulling Daniel Jones. He's not that level of star where we're going to pull our starters. Like, he's going to stay. I mean, he was throwing the ball in the last 10 seconds of the game versus Denver when they were clearly catching an L. So I think he will somehow garbage time his way into over 231 yards. I have Antonio Gibson over 68.5 rushing yards. And then I have Saquon Barkley under 52.5 rushing yards. We kind of talked about this privately, Jordan, about, let me add you to the screen, about Saquon Barkley coming off of a short week. And the question was, what do you do with Saquon Barkley in fantasy? And in my opinion is I'm benching him. Like, until I see something, I can't roll him out there because he does not look he doesn't look like he's playing like Saquon Barkley. And the Giants aren't a good team. Whether I'm not saying he's not healthy, I'm not going to speculate on that, but he's definitely looking like a guy playing off of an ACL injury, right? They don't want to give him a full workload, and it's a short week. Like, I have more confidence in Saquon Barkley in week 3 than I will ever have in week 2. It's a short week. He already didn't play a lot, so why would, and maybe this is just the Giants thing to do, Giants gonna Giant, why would they not work him on Sunday and then give him a massive workload on Thursday versus the football team, versus that defense, versus Chase Young, versus Jamin Davis? Like, why would they do that? This is the week. I know the whole additive, start your studs. I'm not touching anything Saquon Barkley related this week. I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I was going to say the same thing. I was looking for some Saquon lines early this morning, and I couldn't even find anything. A lot of books just pulled them because they don't want to lose a bunch of money on the unders because of the workload. And they're already playing, like you said, the Washington football team, one of the best defensive lines, linebacking cores in all of the NFL. So how is he going to do anything regardless of whether, even if he was healthy, how is he going to see 60 rushing yards? How is he going to see even 30 receiving yards? Those guys are going to be flying around all the way edge to edge, sideline to sideline. It's going to be very difficult for him if he is out there, and I think you're spot on to take the under, and I'd be taking the under too.
What about Antonio Gibson, 68.5? I think he had 90 last week. With a young quarterback, I feel like they're going to have to take a little. Here's what I think the game plan is: run Antonio Gibson, like they just want to get a win, right? They're just trying to get a win. It's a divisional game. Run Antonio Gibson, protect your quarterback, and if you do throw the ball, throw it to Logan Thomas or Terry McLaurin. Like, those are your targets. Remember, we talk about make your bets tell a story. That's my story. Really simple. Run Antonio Gibson. Let your defense do the work. If you do throw to Terry McLaurin. I did these on Prize Picks. So I'm at Saquon Barkley. When I saw 52.5, I'm like under. Unless he rips off a long run or the Giants giant, I just don't see how he hits that total. And Daniel Jones, I mean, he had 267 last week. He didn't play well, but I just think they're not going to have a choice but to throw the ball, whether that's dump offs to Booker, getting Sterling Shepard involved. And we can kind of talk about Gibson's prop right now. So receiving yards, 17.5. You like this for Gibson?
So this is a number I liked more. So you talked about the rushing yards. The reason why I don't love the rushing yards as much is because the Giants actually do have a good defensive line, and their linebacking core is decent. They're much more vulnerable in the secondary. And so while Taylor Heineke is a young quarterback, not very experienced, I don't think that changes the game plan personally. I still think that they're going to do a lot more through the air. And like we talked about with Dallas, right? I think they can do more on the edges in the short passing game through screens than they can do just simply trying to run the ball. Because they're going to have more of a stacked box now that Taylor Heineke's out there. While he can run, they're going to see some heavier fronts because they know they're going to lean on Gibson. So I don't think the coaching staff is going to be unaware of that, and they're going to intentionally stretch the field and get the ball on the edges because they do have playmakers. They have people who can make plays, and Taylor Heineke is a capable quarterback. So this number at 17.5 I thought was very interesting because if they decide to not run as much and they decide to pass the ball a little bit more, it's a very beatable number for Gibson. Gibson last week saw 5 targets, he got 3 receptions, and he got 18 yards. Now, that's only 6 yards of reception. I've told you before, doing projections, kind of looking at some numbers, 7.5 is kind of the baseline projection for any running back. A bad running back will average 7.5 to 7 yards a reception. So if Gibson sees 4 to 5 targets this week, like on tomorrow, he's probably going to go over that number. For his career, he's 18.5 receiving yards per game. That's just for his entire career. And that includes the games where he barely played. That includes the games where he blew up. And we know that at Memphis, he averaged like 70 yards per game receiving some games. So he's definitely capable of doing that. It just comes down to, does he get the volume? And I think last week was indicative of him potentially getting that volume again against Denver, which is a great defensive line, but not as good for the Giants, right? So I think it's a very beatable number for him, more than the rushing yards.
And I saw somebody ask about J.D. McKissick. His receiving yard line is 13.5, so over under 13.5, and I think it's a minus 115 price. I'm looking at Taylor Heineke now. His rushing yard prop line, minus 120, 18.5 rushing yards. From DraftKings, and if you go to FanDuel, it's 20.5 minus 114. So
yeah,
and I saw that too, and I was considering it when I saw it on the book that I use. I think it was 17.5 for Taylor Heineke. So I hope we see one of those terrible shootouts. I hope we get like one of those games where it just should be trash, but it ends up being really good. But Heineke, 18.5. Minus 120 if you take the over. I think he should hit that. A scrambler. He's going to run at some point. He's going to run at some point.
So even last week, just to give you a bit of a context, against the Chargers, he went 11 for 15 for 122 yards and a touchdown, QB rating of 120. So again, accurate passer, right? He can deliver the ball. And then he still ran the ball 3 times for 17 yards. And we know he didn't play the whole game. I believe he played, about 2.5 quarters. I forget exactly when Fitz got injured. But that's still pretty encouraging. You think you give him, yes, it's a short week, but he's the backup. He knows the offense. I'm not as concerned about him installing a game plan and getting ready for that. But having that entire game, pushing those numbers a little bit, like even his passing yard number was 240 yards. So I think the bookmakers are expecting him to actually air it out a little bit and get those passing yards. Whether or not they do, we'll see, but I think that they are more beatable, especially the Giants being more beatable through the air than on the ground.
Well, if you think they're gonna throw the ball, Logan Thomas is interesting. Over under 47.5 receiving yards, minus 105 price, and then receptions 4.5 over under 4.5. You can get plus odds, plus 105 for Logan Thomas. Mm-hmm. Now I think last week he had 3 receptions in that game. He did score a touchdown.
3 receptions, 30 yards on 3 targets, which was only my concern with going after Logan Thomas, is that Taylor Heineke did come in the game and it didn't seem like it did him any favors. When, like we're talking about, we project him to not be throwing the ball downfield as much as Fitz. So Logan Thomas seems like a natural fit for him to target more in that offense. And it just didn't really happen. And to talk about Teddy Bridgewater last week against that same defense, 28 for 36, 2 touchdowns, 264 yards. So, and again, he even rushed for 19 yards. So to think that Taylor Heineke can hit that number, he definitely can. It's happened before, happened last week for both of his numbers. But again, how did they toe the line between rushing and passing? Are they going to do a 50-50 split? Is Thomas going to be involved? It's not a number I necessarily want to go near at 4.5 because I don't know his involvement with Taylor Heineke and whether or not Taylor Heineke would rather throw to Gibson, throw to Terry, throw to somebody else. It's just a little too high for me, and it's playing into his averages from last season, not what we're seeing this season.
Well, Terry McLaurin, I love the touchdown, odds to score a touchdown. You can get plus 165 on FanDuel for Terry McLaurin to score a touchdown. Yeah. I like that. Longest reception, 23.5 yards. Receiving yards, 67.5, all the way up to 69.5. And then receptions made, I kind of talked about that earlier. I took the over 5.5 receptions made. They've got to get their best player the ball. Terry McLaurin's the best player on offense. They've got to get him the ball. Short week. I think McLaurin can exploit that Giants secondary. We know that it's not very good. They do have a solid front. They've got a solid front line, but their secondary is not. I know they've got James Bradbury, who probably will shadow Terry McLaurin, and Bradbury is a solid corner, but I'm going to take better offensive play over defensive play, especially at the wide receiver position. The game is just skewed towards them. Von Astor, y'all touching on the Mostert news. I mean, not really. I mean, he's out for the season. Go get Elijah Mitchell. I think Mostert, that's a wrap for him. In Dynasty, if I had him, good luck. I think he's DOA at this point. Like, that's it. He just can't stay healthy. He just cannot stay healthy. And I know a lot of people say there's no such thing as injury prone. Whether it's injury prone or whatever you want to call it, the dude just can't stay healthy, man. Let's look at Sterling Shepard, and this is somebody that
Yeah.
I was kind of bullish on coming into the season. I know we kind of talked about it in our private chats, Jay, but I really like Sterling Shepard. He's, I know they paid Kenny Galladay a whole bunch of money, $60 million, 70, 80, 90 million, whatever they gave Kenny Galladay. But Sterling Shepard seems to be their best wide receiver. He's reliable in the short area games. He can make plays happen after the catch. He's got the number 3 on, rocking the Oklahoma college number with those Jordan gloves on. I like Terry McLaurin. What do you think about his over-under 55.5 yards? I like it, man.
Yeah, so touching on Sterling Shepard, because you did say Terry McLaurin there, so no
Sterling
reason to
Shepard,
confuse the
sorry,
viewers.
Sterling Shepard, my
It's
bad.
all good. So one of the reasons why I really like this number, and don't get on me too badly, people, because I understand that Sterling Shepard is not Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen did go for 9 and 100 last week against this same defense. He operates mostly out of the slot. No Taylor Heineke is not Justin Herbert. No Sterling Shepard, no Daniel Jones is not Justin Herbert.
You're talking about me, Taylor Heineke.
No Sterling Shepard is not Keenan Allen. But last week, he had a really good game, again, with Daniel Jones. He went 7 for 113 with a touchdown. So to think that he can't do the same thing against the same offense that gets beat in the same fashion, I think is foolish. And only at 55.5, I'm more than happy to take that number. I think he could easily hit 70. I think it's the one spot that people talk about that Washington is actually beatable is in the slot. And I think that he is going to get it done. 56 yards for Sterling Shepard, locked and loaded, guaranteed. I love this number for Shepard. I think he could go the over for receptions, which is only at 4.5, but you have to pay a lot to get that number. If you could juice it up a little bit to 5.5, I think it may be worth it. It's like minus 160 because people keep betting it like crazy for him to go over. But the 55.5 is a number that is bettable. It's only about minus 120 depending on the book that you look at. And I think he's going to be able to get that number down.
At William Hill, you can get plus 100 at over 55.5.
Yeah, there you go. William Hill. I don't even know where William Hill is eligible, but you can get it there.
Yeah. I mean,
double your money, 55.5.
55.5. You could just double up, man. I love that. And even the receptions made, MGM, over 4.5 receptions for Sterling Shepard. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, when I was pulling the numbers this morning, I love it, but you got to pay minus 154 to get it. I think was the best number I found. So that part kind of sucks, but again, you're still looking at 50% profit for hitting that bet if you make it. So if you put down $50, you're going to get a free $25, and I think
free $25.
It's a pretty good bet to make personally. I think you're going to get a lot of good value out of that.
Now, where you can make some money is if you have the conviction to say Sterling Shepard's going to score a touchdown, because if you think Sterling Shepard scores a touchdown, no Evan Ingram in this game. Kenny Galladay, we don't know, and Brandon said $72 million for Kenny Galladay, but we don't talk about that. He's a Giants fan. Plus 290, FanDuel plus 290 for Sterling Shepard to score a touchdown. I mean, you could throw $5 on that and walk away with gas money at the end of the night. I mean, that's pretty nice, man. I mean, I drive a truck.
Gas money where? Can you please tell me where you can get gas for $15? That would get me like 3 liters of gas.
That's all I do. I'm that guy who just puts in just enough to make it home. I just need to make it home. Nah, man. I drive a truck. It ain't gonna get you gas, but it'll get you lunch money. Lunch.
There you go. Free lunch on Sterling Shepard.
Free lunch on Sterling Shepard scoring a touch. You know those people who just like, let me get 10 on pump 2, and you're like, what? Bro, you're on E. Like, I just need $10. That's what we used to do in college. We don't do that now. We just fill up. But what else do we want to touch on from this game? Let's look at.
So we did skip Kenny Galladay though. If you want to look something up.
Kenny Galladay.
I know you don't want to talk about him, but he's the number 1, the alpha for the Giants for Daniel Jones. And to be honest, he had a better game than I expected. I thought he would put up like 3 receptions, like 30, 40 yards. And he went out there, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 64 yards. Come on. And his number is only at 49.5.
Yeah, that's what you
want
out of your...
I'm not saying I love it, but he did it last week. Can he do it again against this defense? I don't know.
Vaughn said, "Y'all didn't skip. He's not worth." Let me tell you something. If I pay $72 million, I want more than 4 for 64. But the odds makers think Sterling Shepard is the alpha because his over/under receiving yard line is higher than Kenny Galladay. Yeah. So Kenny G 49.5. I like it. I do like it.
It's a beatable number. It's one play for him.
Yeah, it's one play. and it might be the only play, but he can get that. He can catch a 50-yard Daniel Jones inaccurate bomb. He can do that from -110 MGM. Receptions made for Kenny Golladay look at the under 3.5. Just
I know.
that's crazy.
People hate Kenny Golladay. Well, I mean, it's a fair number for him. You know, he only catches about 56% of his passes on his career. So, like, you know, what are we really expecting? Daniel Jones is maybe a 60% passer. Kenny Golladay only catches like 56% of his passes anyways. So if he gets 8 targets, he may only catch 5, right? And if he only catches 4, you're barely hitting that number. And he only got 6 targets last week. So if he catches half those, he's at a 3.
All right, let's try to find some.
It's dicey.
Let's try to find some exploitable matchups. Just this game is so gross. Like, I'm not even excited to watch it. I mean, it's football, so I'm trying to be appreciative.
Okay, I have a fun one for you though. Can we bet? Are we telling the people to bet Daniel Jones will throw a pick? Because he didn't throw a pick last week, and you can get it's like minus 140 for him not to throw a pick, and it's like plus 210 for him to throw a pick.
I mean, if you want to make that bet, we can do that. I would if
it's
there's no way Daniel Jones could go 2 weeks in a row without throwing a pick. That's like me going to show without banging the table. It takes a lot of self-control not to do that.
It's plus 120 for him not to throw a pick, minus 150 for him to throw a pick.
Are we going to waste a bet this week on this Daniel Jones interception?
I'm not saying it will be a guaranteed wasted bet, but I think it's one to monitor because maybe he won't throw a pick. You never know.
All right,
I love playing the interception bets. They're a lot of fun.
Darius Slayton. Let's just go through Slayton, right?
Oh, man, Slayton.
35.5 over under receiving yards, 2.5 receptions. Would you touch any Darius Slayton line? Now, plus 450 to score a touchdown. Plus 450. If I did anything, it would be that. I'm just betting on a fluke-ass touchdown from Darius Slayton.
So, the good thing for Slayton is he did see 7 targets last week. We saw more than Kenny Golladay.
Yes, he did.
So, that is encouraging. But he only caught 42.5%. Now, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know if it was his fault. It was probably Daniel Jones' fault. But he did have 65 yards. So not bad. 21 yards per reception.
We're trying to find the exploitable matchups to make money.
What's his long reception number? Because I think that's a number you could hit.
18.5.
For his longest reception?
Yeah, over under 18.5 yards.
That's a number that's very beatable for him. He for his career, I believe, is almost at that number. I believe he's like at 14.5, 15.5. But last week he averaged 21.67 yards per reception.
I might do a little 3-leg parlay. Maybe over on the reception length.
He averages for his career 15.4 yards per reception. So if his number for longest reception is only 18.5, to get one, he could easily have a 20-yard reception in this game, easily.
I'm thinking Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and
okay, hold on. Whoa. Are you going touchdown bets again? I thought you gave it up on the touchdown bets.
No, I'm leaving that alone. I took a massive L on that touchdown parlay in the Baltimore. All the points they scored, now only got like 2 of the touchdown getters right. We'll see. I don't want to waste.
Okay, we'll take the over on the. Okay, we'll make this bet tomorrow, but I think it'll be over on Sterling's yards. I would do a longest reception on
Darius Slayton.
What is it? Darius Slayton, and I would take under on Barkley's yards, and that's your parlay, probably somewhere around plus 230-ish. I think that could be a line that would be pretty good, but it's an ugly game. But we're trying to find some value, and don't discount the Daniel Jones TD numbers because that's always a fun one to play, and we know he's good for rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he is.
So if you want to go after that,
what's it?
He's a guy
half?
who can. Let me see what it is for his touchdowns.
0.5, probably half for a
his
touchdown.
longest rush, 11 yards. Plus 430. Go after that shit, man. Plus 430 for Daniel Jones to score a touchdown. That's worth it. That's worth it because he will run for a touchdown every now and then. And against this defense, he may have to pull one because Saquon Barkley is not getting it done. So you think about if you're a FanDuel bettor and you want to put $10 on Daniel Jones scoring a touchdown, I think that's probably worth it.
Man, I even like his
win 43.
Now that's gas money. 43 is gas money, right?
That's gas money.
I like his longest rush too, 11.5 yards.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a beatable number for him.
I mean, we've
Daniel
seen
Jones
Danny
score a touchdown is that's a great number. He's good for touchdowns for sure.
I like it, man, and I like I like it. I actually like. We're gonna put something together. Because
And he ran for a touchdown last week too.
He ran for one. Now, is he do that 2 weeks in a row though?
Now your mic's clicking again.
Is it? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Oh,
do
there you go.
anything.
You're good now.
I guess it's the
You're
Apple
good now.
Watch, man, and maybe it's the Apple Watch. You know, they got the new Apple Watches coming out, so they start making shit mess up as the new stuff gets announced. We'll figure something out. This just feels like we're burning money, like right now. Even just thinking about this.
It's tough. It's tough. Like I said, I like the Shepard number a lot, 55.5. So I made the graphic for it. I like the Gibson number, and if you want to feel a little bit frisky with Daniel Jones, I think it's worth it. You know, I've placed worse bets. I remember I got Carson Wentz at plus 600 last year. When you get them at 5-1, 6-1 for some of these quarterbacks, look at how often they score touchdowns, and it's probably worth it because you think about it, is their average higher than the odds, right? So if it's 5-1, that means every 5 games they have to hit one for you to cash out. If they score a rushing touchdown every 5 games, which I believe Daniel Jones does, it's probably worth it. So 4.3-1 is probably worth. That's about 4 a season for him. He already rushed for 1. Can he do it again? Not bad.
All right, so before we get out of here, we're going to switch gears completely because I placed a bet, half a unit yesterday. No, a full unit. I followed Chris Meany, a full unit on Vlad Guerrero, MVP. And I have no clue what's going on, but there's
I told you I didn't want to talk about this.
There's a lot of stuff happening. Just baseball guy, tell us why. Make the case for Vlad Guerrero to actually win MVP over Shohei Ohtani, who we thought was a lock for a minute. Like, is this really a possibility? Because a lot of bettors are starting to, like, there's a lot of action starting to pick up on Vlad Guerrero.
Okay, so here's the problem with Shohei Ohtani. His team sucks. His team is terrible. They're 70-74. They're 4th place in their division. They are not making the playoffs. Vlad Guerrero is having one of the best seasons, period, all time, for a 23-year-old, for anybody. We talked about Miguel Cabrera, last player to win the Triple Crown, only player to win the Triple Crown since like 1940. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on track to win the Triple Crown, which is the leader in home runs, the leader in batting average, and the leader in RBIs. He's already passed Shohei Ohtani in home runs. He did it a couple days ago. I was hoping he could pass Jose Abreu last night, but the Jays got shut out for the first time after scoring like 45 runs on Baltimore in one weekend. So he hasn't passed Jose Abreu in RBIs yet, but he's leading the league in batting average. He's leading the league in home runs. And if he does win the Triple Crown and pass Jose Abreu and whoever else in RBIs, he 100% deserves to be the AL MVP. Right now, the Blue Jays are in 2nd place in their division. They're ahead of the Yankees, ahead of the Red Sox, and they are on track to earn an AL wildcard spot. That is amazing. They have I believe they have 6 hitters hitting 320 or higher in September. They are on an absolute tear right now, and Vlad, of course, is leading the charge. If you're going to make a case for someone, it has to be someone having a season that no one's ever had in a very long time. And for me, it's a very beatable case. What Shohei has done has been amazing. But to think that he's doing it all by himself, he's not on a winning team. MVP, while it is an individual award, you have to make the case for a player who's doing something very historic in his own right and playing on a winning team, making it to the playoffs. You know, like last year in the NBA was a big thing with Jokic. He barely made the playoffs, still won MVP. But Steph didn't make the playoffs, didn't win MVP, even though people thought he rightfully could have won the MVP, right?
Well,
so you kind of have to make the playoffs to win MVP, but in baseball, you don't, because Mike Trout's won MVP without making the playoffs like 3 times already.
So real quick, you could still get plus 4,000 on the most regular season home runs on Vlad Guerrero. I got his MVP price at plus 1,200, and I put a full unit on it. So hearing you and the other people talk about Guerrero Jr., this being a real possibility, I feel good because I put a whole unit on Vlad, and I know nothing about baseball, but I follow smart people who do, and I'm just like, take my money. I need to win this. So plus 1,200 is plus 14 is plus 4,000 a good bet for me? Vlad to lead the
for him to lead the league in home runs,
most regular season home runs, points bet plus 4,000.
How is that even possible?
I'm looking Vlad Guerrero Jr. most regular season home runs, points bet plus 4,000 right now.
If that line's available, I mean, you have to take it. That's like that must be wrong.
40
That's
to 1.
Stupid line.
40 to 1.
He's either leading or tied for the lead right now. So that wouldn't make any sense. It must be a mistake.
Show. All right, no, it's not a mistake. Let's end the show. Appreciate y'all. I got to put this bet in real quick before they change it. Tomorrow we'll get into the Dolphins and Bills and all the other games. Mac, I got to go place this bet. I'm out. Peace.